Well, better luck next year, Patriots. Maybe the idea next time around is instead of just spending a week in Palm Beach County, watch this whole training camp down here. I'm sure it'll be like Patriots, Dolphins week 1 anyway, but whenever that game, just so you can get used to it. The heat. That's what it was. Bill Belichick's out here. He's scrambling. He's lashing out. He doesn't know what to do. He's sitting there. The whole franchise has gone to hell. Like, quite frankly, you got old what's his name? Matt Patricia sitting there calling plays. He's getting Joe Judge over there. He's an oaf. Robert Kraft's out there. Just can't wait for his trip up the turnpike to Jupiter. He's hanging with Mike Tyson in the middle of the game. He doesn't know what's going on. They're a franchise in disarray. Everybody said this coming on in, and it's a delicious thing to see, quite frankly, because the Dolphins, they unleashed holy hell on them. They put a whooping on them. It quite frankly shouldn't have been as close as it was, and it was a delightful way to start the Mike McDaniel era. It becomes the first Dolphins head coach to start his career with a win since Nick Saban in 2005. Welcome to McCoachin land, baby. Mystic Mac, he was at it today. A lot of yak today to get everybody's whistle wetted. But the play of the game, there were a lot of big plays for sure. But the play that'll define this game, no doubt, is the 4th and 7 with time running out at the end of the half, and he goes for it and just hits Jalen Waddle. Tua hits Jalen Waddle for a touchdown. Everybody in the crowd, every Dolphin fan doing the waddle. Waddle, baby, waddle, baby, waddle, baby, waddle. And then he waddled away until the very next day. And, you were a little bit worried about Jalen Waddle. Very slow start for him where you didn't see much of him early on. It was the Tyreek Hill show early on where all these targets were going to Tyreek, and it was almost like Jalen Waddle was like, well, is he out here? Are they limiting him? What the hell's going on here? As far as where is last year's star? And he showed out in a big way. He kicked it into next gear. Tua hit him for an absolute strike and was really the dagger in the game. I mean, it was there was from then there on, the Patriots really didn't have anything to catch up for the Dolphins. There were some dicey things and definitely some things where the Dolphins could have made this easier on themselves and probably could have put some better drives together and really, really put a hurting on the Patriots. There's no doubt about that. But it was interesting because they go to the reporter at a halftime and Bill Belichick's saying, those 2 turnovers. It's like, well, okay, well, the old saying, Bill, if my aunt had a set of you-know-whats, like, what are we talking about here, dude? But they did happen. But we did see, Xavier Howard possibly holding Devontae Parker, but wasn't called. You know what? I call that gamesmanship, all right? You get called sometimes. He did get called later in the game for what I thought was a little bit more of a fugazi call. So they gave you the old make good on it. Let's not sit here belly aching all day and night about it. But he had the nice little Xavier Howard remains NFTF all the way, dude. Nose for the football, tips it over to the snowman, Javon Holland, and that's kind of off to the races and really was the standard of the game. The other thing that really blew up this game for New England, though, because they got off to a pretty decent start running the football and for the most part really were controlling a lot of the pace of this game. Like, they had some long drives throughout this entire thing, and it really felt like they were dripping. The Dolphins ended up winning time possession, but like you could feel that really was like one of these things where they had a disastrous second quarter. That first quarter, you're just like, man, it was that kind of paper cut offense that was going around. Mac Jones sucks. I don't know what to tell you. This guy, I mean, they kissed this guy's ass. I've never seen a guy get his ass kissed for doing so little, and another guy get ripped for basically doing the same thing. It's wacky to me how much people throw flowers at this guy for doing nothing. I mean, didn't make an impressive throw the entire game, and was missing receivers by a mile. Was throwing to nobody. Was running for his life. Brandon Jones took his lunch money. I mean, just put a big old sack fumble right on his ass. Melvin Ingram was there. No tape on his hands. No football gloves. This is not what Melvin Ingram does. All right, he rolls out of bed and he plays football. That's what he does. Just like Zach Sealer does too. All right, Zach Sealer, that guy rolls out of bed. He stops him. He stops some running game. That's what Zach Sealer does. That's what he's meant to do. That's what he's going to do. And I think the defense really said, Mike McDaniel said an interesting thing afterwards where he said that this is the defense's team until proven otherwise. And I do think that Were there nuances of this team that was definitely different? Certainly. Like the explosive plays we saw from Chase Edmonds, the kind of terror that just having Tyreek Hill all over the place was definitely noticeable. Just anytime he's in motion. And there were some definitely missed opportunities, not only from Tua, but in fairness to Tyreek Hill too. I think those guys' chemistry was not on par today. There were some points where Tua missed him. There were some drop balls that Tyreek had. All in all, that being said, Tyreek Hill, as tough as I'm being on him, 8 catches, 94 yards with 12 targets. It just could have probably been a lot more, and could have been just an absolute killer game and a debut. But still, nonetheless, you go out there and you beat the Patriots in really every facet of the game. You're feeling good about yourself. This is not one of these nights where you really want to nitpick and what went down. But McDaniel's right. This is still the defense's team. They came up with big play after big play. It's been said now for 3 straight years that this team cannot emulate turnovers. They cannot emulate going and getting big plays, but yet they still do. You have monster plays by different guys too. It's contagious all around. From the Brandon Joneses, who's kind of going under the radar because everybody's throwing the praise at Javon Holland, and he's the good friend who really comes up with the monster plays today. By the way, interesting to see Javon Holland was on the punt returns for the games for the regular season opener. But I gotta say, I think everybody has to agree that Kader Kohou was the absolute underdog star of the game out of nowhere, because you have this undrafted rookie, incredible story, small school, really held on in campus, is flashing all over the place. A lot of the secondary is question, what is it going to be? And Noah Igbenogany inactive, and yet you have this shining light out there just making monster plays, big time coverages, huge hit to force a fumble. His impact was felt all over the place. It was super noticeable what Kohou was doing in every facet of the defense, and really, really making New England uncomfortable. As far as concerns from this game and what things that you might be worried about, there's a couple of things. Run game, not the most impressive, and that was supposed to be really the MO of Mike McDaniel. And in that, Chase Edmonds was your leading rusher, 12 carries, 25 yards, which obviously isn't impressive. He ended up with 65 yards from scrimmage because he got some in the pass game as well, but still had some really, really clutch plays. I mean, really, had a couple where he just made something out of absolutely nothing, getting big time first downs for his team. Raheem Mostert, same way, where there weren't like this consistent just pound the ball and dominate the line of scrimmage, but when it mattered, especially late, they were able to come up with some clutch plays, and the yards after catch was something very, very impressive for this team. That was definitely a noticeable thing. They said that early on too, was going to say we're going to yak teams to death, and that was definitely the case for this team. There wasn't that highlight reel big time bomb or anything like that. No, the biggest chunk play was that end of the halftime to Jalen Waddle, 42 yards. Everybody was excited. We're all doing our penguin dances. We're all having a good time. But as far as the run game is concerned, one of the things that's also concerning is that you have an offensive line that's looking a little bit banged up. You lose Austin Jackson in this game. You lose Greg Little in this game. At one point, you lost Teron Armstead. A lot of shuffling happening all over the place. And it was definitely, it was an offensive line performance. I don't think that it goes down for one of the ages. Like, it's not one of these nights where I think everybody comes away with it and say, wow, the offensive line issues are really, really fixed here. Which also goes to an interesting thing with Tua. So as far as Tua is concerned, it was a point that was brought up by Adam Archuleta during the game where it was said, well, do you think, he asked Greg Gumbel, and he says, do you think that we learned anything new about Tua this time around? And did they learn anything new about Tua? Did they learn anything new about Tua? Well, I think that probably not. I would say Tua had himself a decent game that got a little bit squirrely by the end of it. I think that, I don't know if this was a case of Tua wanted to make things happen when they didn't need to happen, but the end of the game, the couple drives where he's throwing some really questionable passes that nearly get picked off, and he has this thing Tua has a couple things. For a guy who is known as doesn't take a lot of risks, doesn't throw the ball downfield, doesn't go for all. Tua really does try to make something out of nothing all of the time. And it is getting really, really frustrating watching that, because he'll have like a lineman literally on him like a Superman cape. And he doesn't have the physical presence of a Ben Roethlisberger or a Cam Newton or a Josh Allen. He doesn't have the elusiveness or the speed of a Lamar Jackson or any of that, or even like maybe a Patrick Mahomes. Like, he doesn't have that improvisation necessarily that some of these guys do. And especially just not having the sense of when you just let it die, because there were a couple of plays where he's draped all over and then he's literally facing the ground and he's like trying to throw the ball. And I get it. Like, you're trying to not have the loss of down, but like at some times you just got to have it over, because it's like that little bit of a misstep and it could have been a fumble. He did end up having a fumble that got recovered by Connor Williams early on in the game. So could have gotten beat on that one. So it really could have been in certain ways just as much of a disaster game for Tua as it was for Mac Jones. In all fairness, like, I didn't think that Tua had the greatest opening week performance for all this hype and praise. And I'm a big Tua guy. Like, I think Tua is going to be good, and I do think that this offense really does play better to his skill sets. It's just a matter of, like, there are certain times where he is out here and he's just like, he's got to just realize, like, dude, just let it go, because his catastrophic turnover meter can be pretty crazy sometimes. Like, you remember last year, he would throw these wild interceptions, just like you don't know what the hell he was looking at. Now, a lot of the times he would bounce back from it and come with another play, but I just feel like Tua has to get to a place where he is making it a lot easier on himself and a lot easier on the team. And I think that, for me, was the story of this. I felt like this was a 20-7 game that probably could have been something like 27-7, or even 34-7. Like, or they could have at least gotten another touchdown and field goal in certain places. But, like, there was just certain plays I just thought they were making it a little bit too wacky. And I got to the end of the game there. All right, fine, it's over. But I just felt like Tua took us on a bit of a roller coaster there at the end, where there wasn't a need. Sometimes it's fine to just go on It's a Small World and just cruise through all the countries. I don't need to have like Splash Mountain and it just be a thrill ride. We've gotten through the hard part. Just take us on home, baby. Just take it home, baby. And it's like Tua's like, you know what though? Let's just get a little bit wacky with it and let's try and make some crazy things happen. So he's got to cut that stuff out. It has definitely been a thing with his career. I'm not talking about, everybody talks about the things that old habit. Oh, Tua's arm. Oh, Tua can't throw the ball downfield. All this stuff. Yeah, Tua didn't have any hugely impressive down the field throws. His dart to Jalen Waddle, that was impressive and was a really, really great play by the offense, Tua and Waddle all around. So let's give credit where credit's due in certain spots. This is a team that really does look like they're full of playmakers, a lot of fun guys. They are in motion all over the place. And I do think that for a first time under this offense, a first-time head coach, we're going to bitch about a 20-7 win over the New England mother bleeping Patriots? No, sir. But for Tua's standpoint, only thing that I really come out of this game is I really just want to see him have recognition of when plays are dead. They are dead. Let's not make them a lot worse, because that was a team that was absolutely had no pulse in it, and he was this close to giving them life. But was like the criticism he was taking all game from Adam Archuleta warranted? No, I thought Archuleta was really riding him hard the entire game. I don't know if he was just miserable the entire time. I don't know if he's an undercover Patriots fan. I don't know. But, like there was a point where they're like, oh, what do you think about Mac Jones? Mac Jones, he's been fine. It's like, really, Mac Jones has been fine, but Tua's been a bum. Like, that's kind of weird. Like, because I'm looking at their stat line and I'm seeing, similar stats, but one had a bad, had some catastrophic turnovers, had some really, really bad overthrows. And, I would say the best plays that he had were his receivers making plays on the ball. And Lord, I saw Tua was getting ripped for this Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's best play of the game was a jump ball one-handed catch where he just skies to go get it. And you're seeing everybody, this is Tyreek having to go bail out Tua Tagovailoa already. It's like, well, if that happened to Mac Jones, the narrative would be, well, he put it only where he could get it, and you want to put it in a place where your receiver can go make a play. That's a good quarterback. But if Tua does that, he gets ripped. So, yeah, it won a great. I thought it was a B game from Tua. I didn't think this was the most stellar performance. Thought all in all the offense had an okay game. I thought that honestly the players of the game were Chase Edmonds and were Jalen Waddle, and I think maybe that's because I'm grading Tyreek Hill on a curve. Because you expect the world out of him. But I also felt like I think I'm grading it on that curve because we know that he's an elite player, and there were plays there that an elite player should make that I think could have made this just an excellent game for him all around. But all in all, come on, bro. Week 1 in the books, 1-0, tied for first place. It's monster game from the defense, big time turnovers. Bill Belichick can go to hell. They don't know who's calling the plays. Mac Jones sucks. What else needs to be said? This is a good day in Dolphins land.